Very good morning and welcome to the Gnoll from BBC Sports, wherever you're listening or viewing. It is Glamorgan against Warwickshire in the One-Day Cup, and the good news is that we have play starting on time after Tuesday's washout against Durham. The crowd around this little ground will be reasonably packed in. It's already around about 3/4 full. And the news here is that Glamorgan have won the toss and, to no one's surprise at all, chosen to bowl first. There are 3 changes in the Glamorgan side, with Colin Ingram, Jamie McIlroy and Ben Morris dropping out. Ingram through injury. In come Sam Northeast and Tim van der Hoogten, who are rested for the first couple of games, and also Zain Ul Hassan. I'm Nick Webb, and alongside me, representing the visiting stations, is Mike Taylor. Morning, Mike.
Good morning to you. What a shift must have been put in here since Tuesday to get this game on, because I saw the rather grim-looking photographs from the non-game here against Durham on Tuesday. So there might be the odd patch where it's a little bit good to soft, but I reckon it reflects very well on the efforts of the ground staff here and everybody at Neath Cricket Club.
Yeah, the wicket, I was told, was bone dry on Tuesday despite all the rain, so the covers did their job. The boundary in front of the pavilion has just been taken in a couple of metres to get away from the very softish patch. And what of Warwickshire's team and fortunes so far, Mike?
Well, they've won the 2 games so far, one in quick smart against Gloucestershire on Monday. They make 1 alteration from the team that played there at Edgbaston, and it's enforced in a way because Danny Briggs is switching between the 100 and the One-Day Cup. He's gone back to the Oval Invincibles. So he's replaced by a newcomer for Warwickshire, Michael Booth, who is a 22-year-old Zimbabwean-born seamer, contemporary of Chris Benjamin, who's also on Warwickshire staff, from Durham University, I understand. So he'll make his first appearance for the county. He's one of a number that they've had on sort of rookie contracts for this competition, along with Kai Smith, who played in it last year, and 17-year-old Hamza Sheikh, who keep their places. So something of a mix and match Warwickshire team, as I think it is for most of the counties, with a few regular first-teamers. Obviously, they've got quite a few away with 100, so it's an opportunity for a few new faces.
Absolutely. Just about time, I think, before you depart for radio duties, to run through that Warwickshire 11 then, Mike?
Yes, so Robbie Yates and Ed Barnard have opened the innings so far in the competition, and they are going to do so again today. Barnard with some success in the first game, at 90-odd. Will Rhodes, Michael Burgess will keep wicket, Hamza Sheikh, Kai Smith, Ethan Brooks, Jake Lintott, who started his competition very well, Craig Miles, Ollie Hannon-Dolby and Michael Booth. So Lintott, obviously the wrist spinner, but otherwise a battery of seamers.
Yes, I think Glamorgan have had trouble against Lintott in the past. I seem to remember him being interviewed as man of the match against Glamorgan.
It was quite a strong comment from Will Rhodes the other day. Said he thought it was, and I quote, a disgrace that he hadn't been picked up by a 100 team this year as he has in the 2 previous years. But it's been very much to Warwickshire's benefit in the 2 games thus far.
I'm slightly surprised, to be honest, given his abilities. It'll be Tim van der Hoogten to open up for Glamorgan from the Oakwood Road end, which is more or less right to left as we're looking from a position at backward square leg for the left hand, but we do have a monitor in front of us, so we're not too badly off in that respect. And Glamorgan is starting off with 2 slips. Yates, the left-hander, then on strike, and van der Hoogten in to bowl the first ball of the match, and he defends it back down the pitch. So Barnard as opener. Thoughts on that? It's
a new experiment, and this is the competition, I suppose, if you're going to experiment, and it was a success in that he scored 94 in the win at Taunton, which was a good chase for Warwickshire to make, and then 36 the other day at a decent clip in this competition. So far, so good for a player who hasn't perhaps had as successful a season as others so far this year in the other competitions. It's a good start for him.
Here is van der Hoogten in again. And that's beaten the outside edge as it's gone through there to Alex Horton. Mike Taylor will be back in a couple of minutes' time on commentary. And the Glamorgan lineup then Eddie Byram, Tom Bevan, Sam Northeast, Kieran Carlson, Billy Root, Ben Kellaway, Alex Horton, Zain Ul Hassan, may bat higher than that, Andy Gorvin, Harry Podmore. As that is defended again by Yates out on the offside, and again there is no run. Tim van der Hoogten, of course, in that Glamorgan 11 as well, and already into the attack. First over, he played just in the first match last season, took 4 wickets in a very comfortable win at Derby, but was then snapped up to carry drinks in the 100. Van der Hoogten bowls, Yates drives on the offside, on the bounce, straight to cover point. And again, there is no run. So, crowd continuing to file in around this little outground. And at least we have the probability of a full day's cricket today after the disappointment of Tuesday when, quite rightly, virtually no one who wasn't being paid bothered turning up. Van der Hoogten bowls. Yates again is beaten outside off stump. Through it goes to Horton. I think it's worth saying at this early stage that both matches last year were won easily by the side batting second, as Glamorgan were hammered by Lancashire and then in turn disposed of Hampshire. So a good toss to win for Kieran Carlson, as Will Rhodes called wrongly. And Van der Hoogten is in to bowl to Yates, who's pushing forward. Back to the bowler. So that's rarity in white ball cricket, a maiden over to start up with, and I'm not entirely surprised that Yates adopting a cautious approach, since Warwickshire have no idea what to expect from the wicket.
No, I don't think they'll be taking too many liberties to start with, or at least Rob Yates won't, who has established himself in the squad over the last 3 or 4 years as a pretty steady opener in the Championship in particular, but also in this competition. Elbowed his way into the Blast team midway through the tournament and scored 4 successive half-centuries. Missed out, alas, in the quarter-final when Warwickshire went out, but I think he's found opportunities to show that there's more to his game than just a steady accumulation. This might not be at least the next half hour or so, but we'll see.
There we are. There's Harry Podmore for you to describe from the David Road end.
With a large pile of sawdust, which I suspect might shrink quite quickly as we go on. And Podmore to bowl to the right-handed Ed Barnard for the first time, and he's scoring the first runs by leaning back and forcing it through the covers for 4. And maybe we'll just see a slightly different approach from Barnard than we do from Yates, at least to begin with anyway.
Quite something of a gentle loosener from Podmore there.
To bowl to the right-handed Ed Barnard
to be
for the first time.
away.
Scoring the first runs by leaning back and
only
forcing
2
it
outfielders permitted for these first 10 overs, and they are at a wide-ish third man and a wide-ish fine leg.
Still 1 or 2 people coming into the ground, but it's pretty full already. Podmore bowls, and this Barnard's right in behind this one, defending it out on the offside. 4 for none. There's more blue sky appearing. We're peering out slightly from underneath a tent, but we can see some of the clouds from earlier on moving away, but it's a lovely day. Much better than the bad luck on Tuesday, and that rain seemed to linger about.
It was grim. It really was grim. It felt like November driving down the motorway to Neath on Monday. Low clouds. Oh dear, there's someone wandering in front of the screen who the steward hasn't managed to stop.
First of the day. Podmore takes a quick breather. There's quite an animated chat with Kieran Carlson, his captain, hiding under a hat at mid-off. And bowls again to Barnard, who takes a liberty this time and hoiks it over mid-on, and it plops into the outfield. It's very well chased down by Billy Root, who has just hooked it back. Suspecting not quite such soft conditions, he might not have had a chance, but seeing that it was going to land an almost plug, it was worth the chase, and he's kept them down to just 2. And bowls again to Barnard.
It's a little lesson. You've got to run hard.
Over mid-on.
Unless it clears the ropes.
Yes. It was a no ball in between, by the way, so 8 for none. In the second over, Warwickshire have been put into bat. And Podmore this time beats Barnard, just groping forward, and that didn't carry quite low through to Alex Horton. But the first one past Barnard's bat.
Yeah, it's been a difficult season for Harry Podmore. Played in the first couple of championship games, just one T20 blast game. Started off quite well at Worcestershire, 1 for 19 in 6 overs, but got a bit of tap at Derby, 0 for 59 in his 10.
He's been around the squad for a little while, hasn't he? Here he comes to bowl to Barnard, who's forward here and thinks very briefly about the possibility of a run, but he's pushed it straight to Andy Gorvin in the covers, so there won't be one.
He's looking to make his mark, really, with Glamorgan having moved on a full-time basis from Kent last winter, having had a couple of games on loan here at times, here and there.
Takes a pause at the end of his run-up and then pushes in again to bowl to Barnard, who again is carefully forward and just guiding that towards backward point, and it's smartly fielded by Kellaway. Only 2 allowed outside the fielding circle at the moment, and there is a third man. Where's the other? Oh, it's deep back at square leg in front of the tent here. Very well populated tent. It's doing very busy trade as early as 10:30. I suppose it was standing room only in there the other day, was it? Or did we get as far as most people coming into the ground? In comes Podmore to bowl to Barnard, who's carefully defending back up the pitch here.
I think some did turn up for the hospitality, but the game had been abandoned by 5 to 1.
I think so.
So they had to go early if they were going at all.
I went to a game once at Abergavenny,
yeah,
where we got 1 ball of the opening session, and then the rain moved in. And it was shoulder to shoulder in the tent until about... I mean, the play started after lunch, but you couldn't move in the tent until about 4 o'clock.
Well, I suppose that's the delights of outgrounds, isn't it?
Yes.
Local businesses take advantage to stage events, and whether there's cricket or not, they're going to stage them.
You can have an event.
Here's Van der Hoogten in to the left-handed Yates, who drives into the offside, and it's fielded by the sun-hatted Carlson, making a lone fashion statement at mid-off. He seems to be the only sun hat wearer in this current Glamorgan 11.
He's an optimist. The lone raider past the sight screen in the previous over was a rare one, because it's not the crowd scene for Ben Hur now at that end. There's hordes of people going through. I don't know whether they're new into the ground or they've just been gradually making their way around.
Van der Hoogten in to bowl to Yates, who plays this one to Byram at mid-on. No run as Byram puts in a rather over-enthusiastic throw to Alex Horton, who gives him a little bit of a look. So what's all that about? Yeah. Byram wasn't in the one-day cup side last season, but in the absence of David Lloyd, on loan to Derbyshire for the one-day cup, but will definitely, I'm sure, be back for the championship. Van der Hoogten bowls, and has that caught an edge? Everyone's appealing. Umpire not convinced.
It sounded like there was a noise, didn't it?
They all went up. May have flicked the pad. We'll get the benefit of a replay on the video. We'll see what it might have hit. Top of the pad or thigh, wasn't it? Everyone's appealing. It was a deviation.
Yates was determined not to give a guilty look.
And quite right, because he wasn't guilty.
Good
Van der Hoogten to Yates again, who plays that one into the offside, goes through for a quick single. Carlson will have a shy and hits Yates's bat as he goes through to complete his run at the non-striker's end. So Yates slightly nervily off the mark, and Warwickshire 9 without loss in this third over here on BBC Sport Online with Mike Taylor, myself, Nick Webb, and Kenneth Davis will be joining us at around about past.
That's the sort of run you'd only take if you thought you were a bit lucky to get away with the previous ball. You want to get off strike a bit.
So for the first time, Barnard, the right-hander, is on strike against Tim van der Hoogten from the Oakwood Road end, where there are 2 small temporary stands, which are fairly full by now, and will be extremely so in a moment. Van der Hoogten bowls, and that one has gone through to Horton again. So Van der Hoogten causing a few early problems.
Well, it's hard to tell from where we are without looking at a replay, but that, I reckon he missed that by quite a bit. He looked quite surprised, Barnard, as that went past. I think he might well have gone quite a way.
Might be a bit of early mugginess around in the atmosphere as Van der Hoogten runs in and bowls, and Barnard plays it down into the gully where it's fielded by Callaway, and there's no run. So just one off Tim van der Hoogten's first 2 overs, and Warwickshire 9 for naught after 3 here on BBC Sport Online.
That was a very troublesome over from van der Hoogten. 9 for none, indicating that there is a bit of assistance by the look of it. Certainly early on, whether it remains all day with the sun out, we'll see. The folks who went past the side screen, while the bowler was from the other end, are now engaged in a slow march around the boundaries, like a very slow game of musical chairs, because you've got to squint to find a spare chair at the moment. So there's about 50 people on a sort of slow circuit of the ground.
Yeah, it's probably about, 20 left in one of the stands, I think.
Yes, so you dare not get up at the moment, because you might lose it. Podmore starts over number 4, and Yates, facing him for the first time, pushes away into the covers, and there's no run. There's a genius just walked in with his camping chair, you see. He knows what he's doing.
Bring your own chair.
That's the spirit. So he's all right. He's going to be sitting looking very smug in a minute.
The lessons of outgrounds.
The slow march goes on. Chap well placed on the terrace of the rugby stand. There, he's sort of leaning on a fence. Could be in for a long day. Podmore at 9 for none beats Yates on a forward push. That's 4 or 5 that have gone past the outside edge now, and Podmore, not quite been on the mark in the first over, and had Barnard try and be quite aggressive to him, has now found a better line to the left-hander. 9 for none. And Podmore is approaching Yates again, and this time he comes off a thick outside edge and it runs down to third man, where they'll have 1. So an awkward start for Rob Yates. He's 2 out of 10 for none, but he's tricky at the moment.
Yes, this is what we expected, really. If you look back at last 2 games here last year, in both games the side batting first struggled.
Podmore is hesitating before he bowls at the right hand to Barnard. He's moving the field, I think, just making sure that they've got enough inside the circle. And here he is now to Barnard, drifting down the leg side, and there's a yelp, but not enough to persuade the umpire not to give a wide. Punished for just drifting slightly. He's got a man in on the leg side, a sort of fine leg inside the circle. Not sure he's all that fine, actually, but...
Yeah, square legs now being pushed back.
So as if he's looking for a sort of a flick off the pads that maybe goes in that direction. It'll go quick. It's not a big boundary on this side of the ground. Podmore bowls, and Barnard is defending and thinking about pushing for a run, but he quickly changes his mind.
Yeah, the games here last season, Glamorgan were bowled out for 177 by Lancashire, who won with 1 wicket down in the 36 after 36 overs, and then Glamorgan won the toss in the second game, restricted Hampshire to 228 for 9 and won that very easily indeed, thanks to 134 from Tom Bevan.
11 for none in over number 4, Podmore bowls, and Barnard is maybe taken on the pad here, or perhaps squirts off the inside edge into the pad. It pops up into the leg side, and they take one slightly awkward run. Signal from the umpire, so bat into pad, I think. Barnard is 7. I imagine it'd be quite hard to calibrate what sort of score you're going to try and get if you're batting first, because the batting conditions now might be very different to how they are at 12:30.
Really difficult. I think the none on the scoreboard is the key element at the moment, and Warwickshire shouldn't worry too much if they're only 35 after 10 overs.
You can make up a lot of ground later on in this competition. Podmore bowls, Fuller, and Yates drives pleasingly up to Carlson at mid-off. And it's the end of the over. 4 overs complete, Warwickshire having been inserted by Glamorgan on praise be a bright day in Neath. And it's 12 for none in 4 overs, and Yates is 2 and Barnard 7.
Yeah, so cautious, apart from a couple of big shots from Barnard off the bowling of Podmore. And yeah, those last remaining seats in the stand are starting to go, even the ones in the just the ones in the front row left now, which is a very flat view over the advertising hoardings. Van der Hoogten into Barnard, who leg glances and may get 4 runs here. Down to the swimming baths, he will indeed. Runs away 4-4. Fine it went. I say the swimming baths end, but the swimming baths are sadly due for demolition. Van der Hoogten boarded up there. Barnard, who leg glances and may get 4 runs
Cricket
here.
Club are going to lose a natural side screen, aren't they? Or will they knock down that bit? Hopefully that's
a good question.
Quite
There's
useful.
a large white wall there behind the boundary at one end. Van der Hoogten bowls, and that one is played back to him. 16 without loss. Barnard has 11 of them. The rather more tentative Yates has just 2. The gentleman in the rugby stand or the rugby terrace has either paid to come in or decided that it's too much effort and he was only taking a passing interest anyway.
I think he might have taken up mowing. There he goes. He's just gone past on a ride on. Look, I assume he's a ride on mower.
As that's through outside off stump and allowed to go through by Barnard. No shot played. He's obviously one of the ground staff at the rugby club then.
You'd be having quite a regular tea break though, wouldn't you, if there was cricket going on next door?
I think I might be.
You know.
I think I might be.
Every time the boss isn't looking, I think you'd be popping your head round for.
Well, it's only pre-season games on the way. For the semi-pro Neath club, used to be one of the homes of the Ospreys. As that's run down nicely by Barnard. Podmore has to make ground to his left at third man, and they're back for a couple of runs. Well judged. 18 without loss.
And this, am I right in saying this whole area is the Gnoll? Because I think when the Gnoll,
it's the
name
name
initially the rugby ground, but also
both grounds and the estates behind us as well. This is a grassy Gnoll. 18 without loss in the Southwest Wales sunshine. Van der Hoogten to Barnard, who drives into the offside but plays it straight to Ul Hassan at cover, who interestingly is some distance inside the circle there. So he's in saving the drop and run as well as trying to save the cover drive. The boundary on this near side is about a couple of metres shorter than it was originally scheduled to be because of a very muddy patch in front of the pavilion. Glamorgan in their golden yellow shirts, Warwickshire in mid-blue, as Barnard plays and misses outside off stump, looking for the drive. 18 without loss, so Van der Hoogten's most expensive over so far. Mid-blue, 6 runs off it. As Barnard plays, but Warwickshire ticking along nicely. 18 for naught after 5, and I think survival, the name of the game in this first power play session, even though it's meant to be when you have a bash and hit over the top, but that seems to be going out of fashion.
I think, well, as you say, certainly today, wickets in hand might be more of a premium in a more traditional way. How are the marchers getting on? They've thinned out a bit. Some may have found refuge in the tent. Here's Podmore to begin his third over and Warwickshire's sixth. And Yates is driving and not getting a run because he sees it sweetly to Carlson at mid-off.
I think if you turn up in a large group now, you're not all going to be able to sit together. There was an instant in one of the games last year as well, where on the far side, Tom Cullen fielding on the boundary took out several spectators with a diving attempt at a catch. So let's hope there's a couple of metres in between the boundary rope and those chairs.
Looks like they've got a little bit of a space. Podmore bowls and Yates drives, square drives to Kellaway on the bounce, who fields smartly. If you've got a space as good as that, you're not. You're looking for the fielder to move, not you. In my experience of outgrounds, the front row folks there, they don't move.
Yeah, they might have to if they've got a player flying towards them in the usual manner of one-day fielding, where you have a go at virtually everything, as long as it's safe.
There was a time when you'd have been all right. Here's Podmore, right arm over the wicket to Yates, who's thinking only of defending here. Bat and pad welded together and pushes it out to Ul Hassan on the offside. Yeah,
there's a little bit of a white concrete block behind the boundary at the David Road end, and let's hope again the boundary is far in enough from that for the players to be able to dive. It looks as though it is. So a very small playing surface today.
It's not a big enough ground for you not to pay attention if you're in the crowd. Podmore bowls and Yates goes to cut, but it's hitting into the ground, and it lollipops through to Kellaway.
Yeah, as I say, they've had the pitch well covered up, but probably still a little bit on the soft side.
You wouldn't expect the outfield to be quick, but it's not large. Barnard nearly cleared it in the first over, in Podmore's first over, but it'd be good controlling your short golf shots. I don't know whether Barnard's a golfer. He might probably, most of them are. This is cut by Yates, and he's pierced the field for the first time and gets 4, just backward of point. He's picked out Kellaway twice in this over, and this time just guides the ball about 2 yards to his left, and he's 6 out of 22 for none.
Yeah, quite a tall youngster, Ben Kellaway. He's the breakout player of Glamorgan's first couple of games, with 82 at Worcester and 3 wickets
for the first time and gets 4.
At Derby. Wasn't required to bat. 19-year-old. Ben Morris has dropped out of this team on the other 19-year-old bowler.
Podmore bowls to Yates, who flicks this off his pads, and he's going to get probably 4 runs here as well. That's running well wide of the field, the boundary further on the leg side, and running away to long leg for a second boundary in a row to get Yates' innings moving. He's 10 out of 26 for no wicket in 6 overs, which I think, well, anything for none would have been a tidy enough start, I reckon, after being put in today. Well. With the sun coming out, and you would imagine that batting conditions are going to ease. This is a very tidy first half hour.
Yes, and there's still numbers of spectators making their way into the ground and around the periphery. They might spend a bit of time on their feet today, I suspect, because there are very few seats left. If you're listening and you're intending to come, bring your own seat. Van der Hoogten bowls, Barnard is forward, playing out on the offside, no run.
Yes, I was going to say, if you're in the vicinity, this is a lovely day for it, but be quick.
It's the only day of first team cricket, as it turns out, outside Cardiff, with the unfortunate demise of St Helens as a first-class venue.
That is a pity.
It's a great
I've
pity.
enjoyed going there several times. That's very sad.
It's realistic, really. It wasn't in a state to host this sort of game. Van der Hoogten bowls and played down, I think, off an edge by Barnard. He probably wasn't looking to play it quite so fine and stopped in the slips. It was nowhere near carrying, played down into the ground. Sort of game.
Yeah, I don't think pitch is very quick, but I'm inclined to give Barnard the benefit of the doubt, as you say there. He played it very gently.
As Ul Hassan is doing a little bit of stretching at cover. He may be next into the attack. Van der Hoogten bowls. Barnard gives him the charge. There's an appeal for LBW and a run-out attempt as Barnard went for a little wander for a moment, and the throw from slip hit the stumps. Thankfully for the batter, he turned and made his ground in time. So Barnard for the first time giving Van der Hoogten the charge. LBW and a optimistic since he was halfway down the track and probably hit it outside off stump.
I mean, the world has changed a bit in the age of DRS and Hawkeye and all the rest of it. Umpires can be tempted more often, but he was so far down that I think the odds were always in his favour.
Van der Hoogten bowls and Barnard pushes forward, beaten through to Horton.
It's a good spell, this, isn't it? From Van der Hoogten. There's been nothing on offer.
Well, he's been Glamorgan's most consistent bowler all season, really, along with Michael Neser for the first block of championship games. But sadly, Glamorgan won't see the big Aussie again this season, anyway. Van der Hoogten in the morning sunshine is in to bowl to Barnard, who runs it down wide of slip, but not very wide, and northeast makes ground to his right and does the fielding. 26 without loss then, Warwickshire having been put into bat, and they'll be very satisfied with this start.
Well, they'll be happy to get through Van der Hoogten's first spell without losing a wicket if they manage that. This has been very testing. For an experienced bowler now.
Yep. Really has been leading Glamorgan's attack when fit in recent weeks, as that's driven nicely into the offside by Barnard. It may run away for 4 up to the hospitality tent. It will. Eddie Byram doesn't think it's worth hurling himself at that one, so a rare one off target from Van der Hoogten, and Warwickshire 30 without loss in half an hour's play here on BBC Sport Online. Kenneth Davis will come in and join Mike Taylor.
That was pretty sweetly timed, and I suspect it had to be, because it was losing momentum all the way along the outfield, which I imagine will quicken up a bit as we go through the day, certainly. If the conditions stay as cheerful as it is, it's lovely. It's always like this in Neath, I hear.
I wouldn't go that far, Mike. Very good morning to you.
Nice to be with you.
And Nick will be back in due course. So the first change coming from the Dyfed Road end, Zain Ul Hassan. After 3 overs from Podmore, here he comes. First ball past the umpire. Bowls, and that's dug in short, and that's pulled, and that should... No, brilliant piece of fielding. Right out on the deep boundary. That looked all the way for 4.
It didn't have a lot of time to make up the ground there. That was a very fine diving save.
Bowls, and that's dug in short. Ul Hassan just caught that beautifully. Brilliant piece of fielding.
Brilliant piece of fielding.
And it's 31 for no wicket in the 8th. Yates is 11. Barnard on strike 17. In comes Ul Hassan. Just didn't get his radar there. Straying down leg, and it is called a wide. So glorious conditions for South Wales in terms of what we've been seeing throughout the course of the season, and in comparison with what it was like Tuesday, no play at all then, as we view the proceedings at the Gnoll, as Ul Hassan comes in, bowls, dug in short, good length, and that's left by Barnard.
Yeah, they want to have a little bit of a look at Ul Hassan, I think. He looks the quickest of the bowlers we've seen so far. But Van der Hoogten has shown the way, I think, with he's had very little on offer, very accurate lines.
It's expensive bowling-wise in the T20. Played a few cameo innings with the bat, actually, as Ul Hassan comes in fuller that time, and that's driven into the onside to mid-on, and there's no run as it's fielded by Podmore. Glamorgan starting well in that competition, but unfortunately fell away. And certainly they needed reinforcements in the bowling department. As Ul Hassan wheels round from the Dyfed Road end, and that's fended away, and square passes point for 4. That was all about timing.
It was well timed. Second one in a row from Barnard, who's hit 4 boundaries now. Started to play with a little bit more freedom. I thought he had a look in the first over against Podmore and then seemed to think better of it for a bit.
And just used Ul Hassan's faster pace. Podmore more medium pace as Ul Hassan, former Worcester player, comes in. Fuller that time, and there's a shout of LB, and no interest from the umpire. There was an excitement from bowler and Horton, the wicket-keeper. Let's have a look.
Wasn't so far forward this time.
Was Fuller. It was a good shout, perhaps straying down leg as we look at the replay. But it was a good shout from Ul Hassan.
Fuller that time, and there's a
comes Ul Hassan again, dug in a good length, and that's a good forward offensive from Ed Barnard.
He's found a touch of form, Ed Barnard, in this competition, with 130 runs already from the first 2 games. And it is experimental, I think it's fair to say, opening the innings. It's a new venture for him. Been part of, as you were saying, that quite regular traffic between Warwickshire and Worcestershire. There are players going in both directions seemingly all the time. Ethan Brooks, one of Warwickshire's players in this game, will be making that journey at the end of the season.
As Tim van der Hoogten continues from the Oakwood Road end.
5th of his possible 10 overs at 36 for no wicket in the 9th of Warwickshire's 50. Tosses the ball from one hand to the other. 2 slips the close catches as Yates allows the ball to pass outside the off stump.
Yeah, I was talking about the cameo innings. He won the game, the first T20 game, Tim van der Hoogten, with a 6 against Gloucester. But he, like so many of Glamorgan players, were injured, unfortunately, during the T20, which wasn't an excuse, it was fact.
Yeah.
And they were just caught short on numbers.
T20 is a surprisingly draining competition, isn't it? Because the games are so packed in. Van der Hoogten bowls, and Yates plays a loose stroke here, dangling the bat outside the off stump, and walks away, telling himself off, I think.
Good to see the visitors in their traditional Warwickshire guys,
yes.
rather than
that's not
Birmingham Bears.
That's not a spot to pick at in certain parts of Warwickshire.
Hello
sure. At the Warwickshire end of Warwickshire, if you're listening over there, waving that flag. Yes, it's a debating point. I've taken to court, if I call them Bears, you see, then I don't get it wrong. Because the first season I kept getting it wrong. Kept calling them Birminghamshire and forgetting which one I was doing. Van der Hoogten is on his way again to bowl to Yates, who's pushing forward here, defending on the walk up to mid-on. He's been the more cautious partner so far. But Warwick should be happy enough to be none down.
Yeah, looks decent pitch with the sun piercing through the clouds now. Good conditions for batting on this small ground, the Gnoll.
Van der Hoogten starts again, a couple of quick paces, then accelerates into his last 3 or 4 strides, and Yates is easily forward here, pushing firmly to Carlson at mid-off, who his sun hat sort of hugs around his ears as if he's trying to hide under it.
Looks as if he's on a beach in Rhodes or somewhere.
Oh. And who would swap this for that?
Oh, exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
It's a lovely day, and as Nick was saying a few moments ago, if you're in the area, do come and have a look. It's lovely to see outground cricket. Round the wicket comes Van der Hoogten, and Yates cuts but doesn't time it. Hits it into the ground.
Not much first-class cricket here, as was. Obviously, Glamorgan played at various small grounds in their history. Colwyn Bay in the north, Abergavenny, Ebbw Vale, Pontypridd, and of course St Helens. Unfortunately, there won't be any crickets from Glamorgan there.
Yes, that said, I was thinking coming down here, I think this is the 5th ground I've seen Glamorgan play first team cricket on. But I know they've had many, many more. This is cut hard by Yates, and he's only going to get one, probably. There's a sliding stop. They're coming back sharply for 2. There's a sliding stop on the third man boundary. And they're back briskly for a second run. The only runs in another very well-disciplined Van der Houten over. And it's 38 for none in 9 overs. Warwickshire 13 Yates, 21 Barnard. But that, although it's a measured start, it is a very satisfactory one for Warwickshire having been put in.
Yeah, a measured start in the first 10 power play, when a maximum of 2 fielders are allowed, permitted outside the 30-yard circle in old pound, shilling and pence terms. As Ul Hassan will continue from the Dyfed Road end with the leisure centre behind him. That will be demolished in due course, as we've heard, as Ul Hassan comes in. Quickest bowler so far in the Glamorgan attack, and it's strong forward defensive into the offside towards Sam Northeast.
Be a bit distracting if they demolished it this week. I wonder if that's what's given them pause.
I remember having swimming lessons there many a moon ago.
Wow. Not that many, I'm sure.
Yes.
Gosh. It's a shame to see leisure facilities go. But
There's Ul Hassan, Fuller, and it's a good shot into the offside. Fielded at cover for no run. 38 for none in the 10th. Yates 13, Barnard 21. Steady start from the visitors. Birmingham Bears, of course, won the Northern Group.
yes.
But then would have been disappointed, Mike, going down in the quarters.
They have an extraordinarily bad record in quarter-finals in the competition. They've lost something like 10 out of 13 over the year.
Good ball by Ul Hassan, prodded into the onside, fielded by Captain Carlson for no run.
So they'd carried some momentum into it. They won the last 7 group games, but were always slightly behind in that quarter-final against Essex. They were always catching up and never made it.
Well, Essex gained some momentum, obviously went all the way, went down to Somerset in the final in the end, as Ul Hassan wheels round, bowls, and just hits Barnard on the pads. Bit of bat there as well, so it's fielded, there's no runs. Good over here by Ul Hassan, who sporadically played in the T20 competition. This, as you mentioned, Mike, is more of an experimental competition now, unfortunately deemed the 3rd competition. Although Glamorgan won in 2021.
Yeah. Well, it's worth winning, but there's a silver lining to it.
Fuller, and that's a fantastic shot. Cracking off drive through the cover for 4. No one needed to move there. And it's 4 to add to Barnard's tally.
It's timed a few today, hasn't he?
That's a fantastic
When he's picked the right shots to play.
No one
And that was a big
there.
Fuller. But he timed it so well.
10 wickets in hand, so they're in a decent position here in which to move on. Ul Hassan comes in, mid-off, mid-on, one slip. Shorter that time, banged in, but it's gone fine through the man at fine leg, and it'll race away to the boundary. Maybe should have been stopped that time, but just straying down leg. So an expensive over in the end. The curse of the commentator. 46 without loss.
Well, he hasn't had to drift very far offline there, Ul Hassan, to be picked off for a boundary by Barnard, who's been very severe on anything leg stump so far. And it's another successful start for him. 6 boundaries in 29.
Timmy van der Hoogten. Thought they might have made a change, but he's going to persevere from the Oakwood Road end. There's been a few play and misses. At the start, they look more settled now, but they did flirt and fended at a few outside off stick early on.
Here is Van der Houten. bouncy first few strides, then really gets into his running and has Yates forward, pushing away square on the offside. Yeah, I mean, with the sun out and taking away any moisture that there might be, although I'm told the pitch was kept very, very dry, you'd imagine it will get easier. I mean, I don't think it was any surprise that Glamorgan bowled first. I suspect Will Rhodes would have done the same. But now, it looks increasingly good. If they can see off Van der Hooten's first spell, they'll be happier still. Round the wicket he comes, the left-handed Yates, forward defending.
Especially with short boundaries, they'll be hoping to cash in on the barred balls, as they've done. It's been disciplined batting so far from Yates and Ed Barnard.
The Warwickshire team for late switches on shows only one change from the team that dispatched Gloucestershire in double quick time on Monday. A debut for Michael Booth, a 22-year-old seamer who replaces Danny Briggs. Round the wicket comes Van der Hooten, and that's a little bit of a miscue by Yates and a misfield as well, but it doesn't cost a run. Al Hassan goes smartly to pick it up, came off the inside edge to mid-wicket.
Yeah, Briggs obviously going back and forth with 100 ongoing.
Yes. Easier if he was playing for the Birmingham team, really.
What is the relationship in that part of the world with 100 at the moment?
Well, I mean, there are a few of the Warwickshire players are in the Phoenix team, and there's a lot of local representation in the women's team. Round the wicket comes Van der Hooten, and Yates defends.
Which is a problem with the Welsh Fire last year.
Yeah.
It was that connection between supporter and the team. They are franchises. They're made-up sides in effect.
They are, and look, I think there's a limited amount of supporter overlap, and I suspect it's the same here.
And some of the games are overlapping as well between county and franchise.
That's the case today. There are women's and men's games at Edgbaston today in the Phoenix, and they've been well supported. Here comes Van der Hooten around the wicket to Yates, who defends. Warwickshire are playing all their one-day cup games at Edgbaston. They don't use an out ground, so it is a different format every week, or every few days at Edgbaston at the moment. Obviously, Glamorgan have taken a couple of their one-day cup games away from Cardiff. So yeah, look, I mean, there's something of an overlap between the squads. There's something of an overlap between the spectators. But I think there are a significant number of fans who will only watch one or the other. It's where we are at the moment. Here's Van der Hooten bowls, and this is pushed away by Yates. And that was a maiden from Van der Hooten, his second. Whether that will signify the end of his spell, we'll see. He's gone through 6 overs now, pretty efficiently. But Warwickshire have still made a good start at 46 for none.
Yes, they've seen Timmy van der Hooten off well. As I said, there were a few snorters early on outside the off stump, but they'll be generally pleased, will the visitors, with this start after 11 overs with Yates and Barnard still at the helm. And Zain Ul Hassan will continue from the David Road end.
They've got batting to come as well. Obviously, like Glamorgan and like most of the counties, there are a mix of seniors and newcomers in this competition, but Rhodes and Burgess, the next two on the batting card.
Ul Hassan in the sun here at the Gnoll will continue. Comes in, ambles in past the umpire, and it's good shot into the off side, but there's a man out at extra cover. It is Bevan. So just a single coming off it. Glorious conditions with the Gnoll rugby ground in the distance. Neath Abbey then behind. The famous cowshed. I've seen many a battle over the years. Ul Hassan coming in, and that's a good ball outside. Yates just flirting with it for a moment.
Yes, it beat him. Whether it would beat him enough to encourage Kieran Carlson to give Ul Hassan a slip back, because it's now dispensed with altogether. We're through the first 10 overs, so
yeah, there's a
regulations do change.
Yeah, Hassan coming in. Good length and good shot as well out to mid-off for no run. Yeah, there's a man deep back. Fine leg, third man.
So after the first 10 overs, you can put more fielders out outside the circle. So
deep mid-wicket.
Dispensed with the slip. But if Ul Hassan can push another couple past the outside edge, you might get it back.
Ul Hassan wheeling round to the left-handed Rob Yates. Coming in. Good length ball again, but Yates looks in good nick at the moment. Just that crack off the bat usually indicates a batter in form.
He's made 2 starts in this competition so far without going on, 12 and 18. His championship form was in and out, but it was very definitely in at Canterbury. He went an unbeaten double century, the highest score of his career, set up a win.
Hassan with 27 on his back, and well, Yates tried to engineer that into the onside, but it ricocheted into the off, and it's fielded by Callaway for a single. A bad over here by Ul Hassan, but they need a breakthrough, do Glamorgan, because they look settled, these pair.
They do, and Barnard will be keen to keep the score moving. He's picked his attacking strokes very well so far.
Last ball of the 12th over. Ul Hassan, again, good shot, good fielding by Hassan as he came through in his follow-through. And that's the end of the over. And Warwickshire moved on for 48 for no wickets. And not much assistance in any wayward movement out there at the moment.
No, there's still the odd one that goes past the outside edge, and Yates has been not as fluent as Ed Barnard and hasn't timed the ball as well. But they have, as you said, seen off Van der Houten, and Andy Gorvin is going to take over at the Oakwood Road end, which is to our right. We're looking on from. I'll be honest, I've fielded deeper than this. It's great to be so close. Because in the big ground, you can be so far away sometimes. You get a super view, but you'll be a long way away. But here, I feel part of the action here.
And if you went to Colwyn Bay, that's probably even closer.
I've been there. I've been
Remember, Steve James's 323 years, many years back. They usually played Lancashire there. That's Colwyn Bay.
Went on a school trip to Abergavenny once, and we all said, we feel deeper than this in the school games.
Yes.
It was great fun. Here's Gorvin sprinting in to bowl his first delivery. Round the wicket to the left-handed Yates, who picks off a single, pushed out to deep extra cover.
How's the competition viewed at Warwickshire, this competition?
Well, I think like at most of the other counties, it's an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Firstly, it's an opportunity for players who haven't played much, or for new players, and there are several in this squad, to make some progress. So, it is the third competition, and that's unfortunate, but there are things you can make of it, and Warwickshire have been making things of it. Here's Gorvin bowls to Barnard, who hits that very firmly. It was in the air for a moment, but it was hit firmly to mid-on, and there's no run.
Of course, they've got a rich history in one-day competition. Remember that 93 to 95 side, Dermot Reeve. Obviously, Alan Donald was the overseas player.
And Brian Lara for one season in that time. Yeah, no, they've won every pot going. And look, if they get near it, they'll be the supporters will be all up for it. This is just leaked down the leg side from Gorvin and to wide.
Was it 94 they won one and were runner-up in the other?
They won 3 in 94 and were runner-up in the other. Yeah. So but in terms of the one-day competitions, they off the top of my head. And
they visited Lords many a time during that.
They lost one final to Worcester and then won the other final. Proudly remembered all over Edgbaston still. Here's Gorvin bowls, and that's guided by Barnard. I thought for a moment he was trying to leave that. Maybe he was, but it just glanced off the face of the bat and ran very fine. The wicketkeeper's standing up now, so it was quite a safe shot in the end. It's away for 4 runs.
And of course, there's no slip, there's no protection there for Gorvin, and it was a fine glance for 4.
I think I've done him a disservice there. I think he's playing on purpose in the replay. 54 for no wicket. Warwickshire, and well placed to advance here. Gorvin's hurtling in, it's a tremendous effort, and back goes Barnard and hits this hard to deep cover, and Ul Hassan just in front of us fields. They have one, and Barnard looks in good touch at the moment. A man who scored runs in his last 2 innings, and he's laid a very strong foundation here. He's 35 out of 55. Yates steadies himself, waiting for Gorvin round the wicket, and Yates is defending. He's the quieter partner in this partnership.
And only from 39 balls, you didn't realise he's methodically going about his business.
Well, he's picked off anything loose at the moment, especially on the leg side, but the last boundary guided down very fine. It was a perfectly tidy delivery, but he manufactured 4 runs. Yates 15 and waits for Gorvin, and that comes off a thick outside edge and runs down to third man. They'll have 1. So another over is through. 13 complete, 56 for no wicket to Warwickshire. Yates now 16 and Barnard 35, and they are ideally placed.
Yes, indeed. No, they're looking strong as Ul Hassan will continue from the Dyfed Road end. Glamorgan desperately needing a breakthrough. Good crowd here at the Gnoll. Still some streaming through the gates here. And as Nick mentioned, there isn't many places to sit here. They've all brought their deck chairs and plenty of sun cream as well needed today as Hassan comes in, and it's good drive but fielded by Kieran Carlson.
Yes, you've got to time when you get up, haven't you? If you've saved yourself a good seat, then you've got to make sure, because there was that crew of people marching around the boundary earlier. I think they've all found somewhere at the moment. There's a couple over there still searching. Look, any spare seats? And away.
Good to see as Ul Hassan steams in past the umpire, dug in short that time, and that's cut away, and it'll be fielded at third man by Timmy van der Hoogten. This left-right partnership going well. Left-handed Rob Yates, but it's the right-handed Ed Barnard on strike now. 35 from 39 balls. Yates a bit slower. 17 from 42. Run rate is 4.2 currently, with 36 remaining. Ul Hassan, and that's prodded into the onside. It's fielded by Kieran Carlson.
He hasn't looked as fluent, Rob Yates, but maybe Warwick should be content enough that he's there, and they've got plenty of batting power to add. He did have a purple patch in the T20. He didn't start the competition. But when he did come in, scored half centuries in the last 4 group games. He's had success with the right ball as well as the red ball this season.
Good length ball from Ul Hassan, and that's a good, strong forward defensive from Barnard. Just to reiterate, out of the Glamorgan side are McIlroy, Ben Morris, and well, the big blow is Ingram, because he has had problems with injury. He pulled up with a calf injury earlier in the season in the T20 down at Chelmsford, and I think it's the same calf that's giving him a bit of problems. Unfortunately, scoring a ton in the last game at Derby, again fended off into the onside, fielded by Carlson.
He might have been quite good fun to watch on a small ground like this.
He would have gone at a fair lick, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, you'd have had to pay attention. Suddenly, even our chap on the mower on the rugby ground would have had to pay attention. Colin Ingram was playing.
Without question, him and Cook were the main run scorers in the T20. Carlson came into his own in the latter half. Scored a record half century against Middlesex, all to no avail. They fell away in that match as Ul Hassan comes in, good over, good length. Getting into his stride here is Zain Ul Hassan, end of the over. And Warwickshire 57 for none.
Yeah, that was a tighter over from Zainul Hassan, who's bowled 4 now, no wicket for 17. Just restraining the scoring rate.
Yeah, just 1 coming off that over.
But they're ticking along happily enough at the moment. And Gorvin, he's going to try again. It's a long, straight sprint that Andy Gorvin has to the crease. Here he is, sets himself and he's away. But he's not, it's a false start. Yates has said, hang on, I'm not happy. Everybody's fine beyond the bowler's arm, he just wasn't quite there.
Medium pace, Andy Gorvin. All about more taking the pace off the ball.
Yeah. He's round the wicket to Yates, who square drives, and he's going to get at least 1 run, and that's only 1. Boundaries are not big here, so you've got to be very choosy about taking 1 on the throw.
Yeah, any width, and it's going to be dispatched.
At the end of the over, I'm going to nip out and tell the people at both ends of Warwickshire about the news of the good start, if it still is by the time I get there. Gorvin bowls over the wicket to Barnard, who turns it to Carlson, who's come in closer now at short mid-wicket. And that more fashionable position now, only about 15 yards from the bat.
But they're settled, they're strong, they've built a partnership, and the home side need a breakthrough.
It's quite a bit of power to add. Here comes Gorvin, and Barnard is forward in a textbook defence and pushes up on the offside. There's no run. There's a breeze just rippling the trees a little bit, which is, and who'd have thought it when given the conditions here on Tuesday, but folks out there might be a bit glad of that come the afternoon, because it is a lovely day. Gorvin runs in again, doesn't waste much time, and this is guided by Barnard. He doesn't catch it quite as sweetly as the one in the previous over. This time he does steer it down to the deep third man and takes just 1 run, so 36. And it's 59 for no wicket. For Yates on strike, it's still quite a defensive field, even though he has not been as fluent. Keeper up to the stumps for Gorvin, and Yates is driving. Doesn't time that either. And it squirts along the ground to Carlson at extra cover. His timing just hasn't quite been there so far, Robbie Yates.
Not compared to Barnard.
No.
But getting into his own.
But he hasn't been dislodged, as I'm about to be by Nick Webb after this delivery. This is Gorvin starts again, and bowls off a shorter run this time, and it's hit into the ground, and there's no run for Yates, so he is 18 at the end of the over, and Barnard 36, 59 for none in 16, and Nick Webb's going to come and join you.
Yes, and Warwickshire looking strong. There were a few oohs and ahs early on, a few play and misses, but apart from that, the Warwickshire openers in Yates and Barnard have settled down. They've dispatched the barred ball, and not much assistance from this wicket. It looks a good batting wicket in the glorious sunshine that is Neath. And who would have thought we would have been saying that, Nick, after Tuesday?
Absolutely, where we spent several hours waiting for it to stop raining, and it stopped for about 10 minutes, and then just as anyone was looking vaguely interested, it started again. So another change. Kieran Carlson is going to come on himself and bowl his off breaks. And sort of decent wicket taking option for Glamorgan. Surprisingly, he was leading wicket taker in this comp last year.
He was more sparingly, obviously, in the T20 competition, although I do remember a few wickets here and there. But really came into his own in the latter part of that competition with the bat. As Carlson comes in, and that's swept into the onside. There's a man deep square, and it'll be a single.
Yeah, looking round the ground now, there are actually people taking any vantage point possible. There's a load sat on the white concrete away to our left by the entrance of the ground, which I imagine would be a little bit uncomfortable for a 6-hour stay.
Yeah, no one in the trees yet to the left of the leisure centre, which is about to be demolished, as we mentioned.
There've probably been a few hanging off the roofs for rugby games next door in the past.
Carlson coming in. Full toss, and that's dispatched. It's given the treatment that it deserved into the leg side for 4.
Yes, that was a bit of a buffet ball, wasn't it? Help yourself. Swept away. The back of the smaller rugby stand is opposite us.
Full toss, and that's short boundaries, obviously, here at the Gnoll. And that's shouts of catch, but that has gone all the way behind square for 6. The first of Warwickshire's innings, and Yates is taking Carlson on.
Yeah, Yates has been the less aggressive part of the pair so far. Really tucking into Carlson. The full toss was a real help-yourself ball. That was a little bit more risk involved.
Carlson starts his short run-up past the umpire. Good length ball that time. Mistimed cut by Yates into the offside, and there's no run. Warwickshire played 2-1-2. Won by 4 wickets against Somerset with 38 balls left, and they raced to victory as Carlson comes in. That's guided behind deep backward point for 4, and
yeah, Harry Podmore up inside the circle,
probably thought
hurled himself at it.
Yeah.
But dived over the ball and it just ran away gently for boundary. Down towards the scoreboard, which is a club board, but it's still very quick off the mark. And as long as you've got overs, wickets and the batter's scores, that's about all you need, really, is the basics.
14 off the over, expensive one for Carlson in his first. Comes in, bowls, good length ball, and it's taken by Horton, the wicket keeper. And that is the end of an expensive first Kieran Carlson over. 74 for no wicket, and Warwickshire go along very nicely at the moment at the Gnoll.
Indeed, it's...
we speak about small grounds. I remember Glamorgan playing at Cresselly as well years ago. I think that was during the time when Safari Gardens was getting redeveloped for the 2009 Ashes test.
We had seasons where Glamorgan were really out and about. I didn't go to that Cresselly match. I wasn't working on
that was
that
Surrey,
one.
if I remember.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Gorvin to continue from the Oakwood Road end, right to left as we look at it, and driven by Barnard into the covers. All Hassan will field, and it'll be just the single. 75 without loss. There was one season in the early 90s where they took the one-day league very much on the road. Games in Penturk and Llanelli, Merthyr. This the only first team day outside Cardiff this season as Gorvin bowls. Yates forces it or tries to on the offside, but it's intercepted by Callaway, moving smartly to his left at backward point, and there is no run. Callaway seems to enjoy fielding in that position. It is a key position on the field.
I seem to remember a few touring teams playing here. Remember the Australian '89 team? As
Gorvin bowls, driven into the covers, scrambling, stopped by Carlson. No run for Yates. Yes, I watched a rather past his best Jeff Thompson bowling here for the Australians.
that was probably still better than
Still better than most, yes.
That's still faster than most.
Yeah. Javed Miandad and Yunus Ahmed taking big scores off the tourists. As that is jabbed down into the ground by Yates, bounces up to Callaway. It's blocked at backward point, and there is no run. Little bit of unevenness of the surface, compared, of course, to county headquarter grounds, and noticeable the fielders are doing their best to make sure they get everything behind it. 75 for naught, 17th over. Gorvin into bowl. Yates drives into the offside. Will pick up a single out to the sweeper on the cover boundary. Not too much test of the throwing arms at professional level today. They could probably all ping it into the gloves from most positions on the ground if they were so minded, but most throw on the first bounce anyway these days. If it's any more, you get a bit of a telling off from the umpires. Gorvin into Barnard, who drives through the offside. It's a chase for Ul Hassan, but he will make more good ground. Slides in front of the hospitality tent, and they're through for 2 runs.
A rare 2 runs at this ground. We haven't seen many this morning.
78 without loss. 17 overs gone here on BBC Sport Online with Kenneth Davis, myself, Nick Webb, and Mike Taylor. BBC Radio WM. He'll be back around about past. And the 2 batters meet in the middle to discuss a job so far well done.
Certainly is. 33 off 54 is Yates. Barnard has compiled 40 from 49, the far quicker scorer. Plenty of overs, obviously 33 remaining in this 50-over match. The run rate has just crept up again to 4.5. That's cut into the offside. There's a man out on the boundary. It's Ul Hassan. Single taken in this 18th over. Glamorgan needing this breakthrough. Carlson continuing from the Dyfed Road end. Short run up, off break bowler, right arm. Just a strong defensive shot from Barnard, and there's no run.
Yeah, Ul Hassan should be among those reasonably confident of getting a new contract after the success of his rookie year here.
Carlson, good length ball, and they're interested, but that's squirted away into the offside. There's a man that comes round and deep backward point rather, and there's 1 run. Well, bowling was an issue in the T20 in terms of the reserves that Glamorgan had, because you're compounded by a few injuries as well, mainly on the batting side. Byram was injured, Ingram, who's out again, unfortunately, for today's fixture.
Yeah, Dan Douthwaite was probably the main miss on the bowling side. He's started well with 10 wickets in 6 games before picking up a side strain.
Carlson himself had a dislocated finger. That's pulled, and that's gone all the way. Just made it. And it's 6, the second of this morning from the day's play for Barnard.
Yeah, rocked back and pulled that one strongly away. Ul Hassan, if it had been a couple of metres closer, it was at a possible catching height. It would have been difficult, but it eluded him.
Yeah, conventional field or conventional ground, that would have
been caught on the boundary as a county headquarters.
87 for none. The last ball of Carlson's over, and that's fielded at mid-on, and there's no run, but Warwickshire looking strong with these 2 still at the helm. Yates 35, Barnard 47, and they have raced on to 87 without loss.
First time then that Warwickshire have batted first in this competition, having beaten Somerset by 4 wickets and Gloucestershire by 8 wickets, chasing just 120 in that. It seems as though Glamorgan may face a substantial chase here, but on this small ground and with the pitch drying a little, they have the capabilities of chasing down a decent total, as they did at Derby, where they reached 299 to win the game for just 3 down. No Colin Ingram today, as Gorvin bowls to Yates, who jabs it back to him, and there is no run.
And is it that same calf, Nick, with Colin
Yes, it's
Ingram?
the same injury.
He pulled up against Essex at Chelmsford in the T20s.
Yeah, it's the same one. He said he'd been having niggles for most of the season and is expected to miss, he said at the time, a couple of matches. We'll see if he's back for Sussex on Sunday, as that's driven into the leg side by Yates, fielded by North East, and there's no run. Sam North East, who was given a week off, one of those who had played in every game up to that point.
His form probably indifferent in the T20, given that he was top run scorer last year with 510.
Yeah, it didn't match those heights. Did have his moments. Gorvin into bowl, and that is played away comfortably by Yates on the offside, fielded by the cover sweeper, through for a single.
I'm sure Ingram would have tried to make hay on this pitch.
Yes. Well, he was the support act to Tom Bevan in that one game last year, which is unusual. 88 without loss, with Yates on 36, and Barnard one potential blow away from a half century. Gorvin bowls, driven firmly into the offside, but straight to northeast, and there is no run. So good luck with club sides in this part of the world, indeed in the Midlands as well, trying to get games on at the weekend. Looking at the forecast, it's not great again for Saturday. It's unbelievable how the worst days of the week has fallen at the weekend. Gorvin bowls, cut hard by Barnard and parried by Callaway at point in front of us, and they managed to go through for the single. 89 without loss.
We're still waiting for the Indian summer, but we had that spell in June, which is why the T20 is played there now.
Yeah,
I mean, there's been quite a few campaigns where when they played in July, they were just wiped out, especially at Cardiff.
Gorvin into Yates, drives, doesn't quite time it, back to the bowler it goes. And the over, 18-19 gone now, that'll be. It should tick over in a moment. They started from that Oakwood Road end. The ball is tossed back to the umpire. Remember, they play with two different balls, one from each end. It looks as though there's going to be another spell from Harry Podmore now. Kieran Carlson having taken a bit of tap in those opening overs of his, not putting Callaway on quite yet.
It's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, Kieran Carlson, I think, is trying to introduce him gently into the bowling attack, but he did get 3 wickets last up.
Podmore started from this Dyfed Road end, with Timmy van der Hoogten on the Oakwood Road end. Here, Podmore comes in for the first ball of his second spell, and that's a play in the miss outside off stump.
Alex Horton now standing up to Harry Podmore.
Yeah, deep third man, fine leg. There are a few deep on the boundary here, deep mid wickets. Deep square rather. Carlson's in at mid wicket, mid off, mid on. And there's a man at extra cover. Here comes Podmore in past the umpire, and that's just a prod on the offside. It's gone behind backward point for a single. Yates on 36. Barnard's moved on to 49. 90 without loss in the 20th. And the run rate, which isn't as essential in this format, but it's 4.6 with almost 31 overs to go. Podmore comes in, good length ball, and it's easily prodded into the offside, but there's no run, fielded by Kieran Carlson.
Yeah, so Tim van der Hoogten, Glamorgan's most economical bowler, has bowled 6 overs, 0 for 13. Harry Podmore's now in his 4th over, 0 for 20. Zain ul Hassan, 4 overs for 17. Gorvin, 4 overs for 16. Kieran Carlson's 2 overs have cost him 24, hence his rapid withdrawal from the attack.
As Podmore ambles in past the umpire, good length ball, but it's whipped away into the leg side for a single.
Couple of experienced men to come in, Will Rhodes and Michael Burgess, and the teenagers, Hamza Sheikh and Kai Smith.
Booth is the only change, which was enforced with Briggs on 100 duty. He's been back and forth.
It's nice to see that brought into operation this season.
Well, it's more so. I think it was a big problem in the first 2 seasons.
COVID, wasn't it?
competition's existence. That's full and whipped off the legs, and that is Barnard's 50 from 58 balls. Gracious applause here from the supporters at the Gnoll.
7 fours and 1 6.
And he's looked more than comfortable, has Ed Barnard, with Yates the supporting act. He's on strike now. In comes Podmore, and a good length ball, and just a forward offensive from Yates, and there's no run, which brings Podmore's first over of his second spell to an end. Warwickshire dominant at the moment, 92 for no wicket.
Yes, it is a ongoing problem for Glamorgan taking wickets up top. Has been to a certain extent in the championship, and is now in this one-day cup, as they will look to frustrate Warwickshire, prevent them from accelerating, maybe make them take a few risks, but as I say, plenty of experience, both with Yates and Barnard and the next two to come. As Gorvin bowls to Barnard, who blocks it out on the offside to northeast.
Bowlers that don't feature, obviously, in this competition. Swepson, Nisa, obviously.
Yeah, Swepson's gone home.
James Harris is another.
Yeah, he was captaining the second 11 yesterday in a 2-run defeat against Gloucestershire in Newport. It was James Harris and a lot of youth around him. As Gorvin bowls, and that's, well, attempted to be played away on the offside by Barnard, but it ended up being hit straight down into the ground. This time of year when there's a lot of trialists floating around looking to make a mark, and the youngsters.
Andrew Salter, obviously, having announced his retirement from the game. He might be joining us in the commentary box next year.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. Gorvin bowls, turned on the leg side by Barnard, and Carlson fields at mid-wicket.
He was part of the victorious 2021 team that won the one-day cup.
Yeah, man of the match in the final.
Yeah, found it frustrating early on in the season, obviously not getting much game time, with Prem Sisodia featuring in the T20s.
In comes Gorvin. Bowls, Barnard trying
ramp.
the reverse and getting it away. A ramp down towards the boundary. Is that going to go? Yes, just about trickles. Just about makes it over the boundary rope, despite the dash from Billy Root around the boundary, and Barnard getting in position very early and playing a cheeky ramp up over his shoulder, and it trickled away for 4 to the ropes.
Premeditated shot. It plugged considerably inside the ropes, but just had enough on it to go all the way.
Well, there's not a huge amount of pace on the ball from Gorvin, as that one is defended on the leg side. No run, 96 without loss. We're in the 21st out of the 50 overs. So Warwickshire not getting away by any means, but with all these wickets in hand, they will have license to swing in the closing stages. Gorvin into Barnard, drives back to the bowler, and there's no run. So the invention was needed from Barnard to score anything off that over. The one boundary he got away, the rest were dot balls. 96 for naught after 21.
Still great conditions here at the Gnoll. Just to give you the geography, we're looking directly from our vantage point towards the rugby ground, with Neath Abbey in the distance, and we're backing on to Gnoll Park, with the village of Kimler winding behind. You can see I'm a local.
I can tell you on local knowledge, Ken.
Not quite from these parts, Nick, but close enough.
Close enough, yes.
As Podmore continues from the Dyfed Road end, medium pace, ambling in. Bit short that time, and it's given Yates plenty of room to cut into the offside. Gorvin is the man out deep on the boundary. Just a single.
You can tell we've had a long time off playing. I actually went to some club nets last night. The pitch was very, very slow.
Which is odd because early in the season it was barren.
Oh yeah.
As Podmore starts his run-up. Firmly driven for just a single. The man out there is Zain Ul Hassan at wideish mid-on.
I'm not quite sure how it was physically possible, but I tried to play a square cut on the offside and ended up dragging it to mid-on. Not quite sure how you do that.
Does that mean you're out of nick, Nick?
I've never been in nick, frankly. Not for about 40 years anyway.
Podmore in. Fuller that time, and that's in the air, but it will evade Zain Ul Hassan. It's not going to go all the way. Plugs considerably, and it's not even going to go for 4, but they'll come back for a second.
As we said earlier on, golfers might enjoy these conditions when chipping onto the green. That is the 100 up for Warwickshire, and that has come halfway through the 22nd over.
Run rate 4.6. So they'll be trying to push on here, as it's a strong forward offensive from Yates, and there's no run.
Basically, you can say that anything going up in the air, unless it pitches within about 5 metres of the boundary, isn't going to go over it. It really is stopping quite remarkably.
Yeah, we've seen a few. We saw that ramp shot, which did eventually
just about trickled over.
So they need some divine inspiration here. Do Glamorgan as Podmore comes in short, and well, sure what happened there. I think Yates got himself in a bit of bother and a tangle. Was expecting that to be
bottom edge, possibly, was it?
Yeah, wasn't timed anyway. Just a single.
Trickled away to backward square, and Podmore gives a look to wonder about his
his
fortunes.
The time in the world to smack this through.
Oh, it's just missed leg stump by a sliver of paint.
In the 22nd over, this the last ball of Podmore's over from the Dyfed Road end. Ambling in, medium pace. Fuller that time, but it's whipped one bounce through mid-wicket for 4.
Yeah, that one was flatter and lower, wasn't it, than the previous aerial shots. Heading towards us in the commentary tent, and nothing that Gorvin on the square leg boundaries could do to get round to it. So 105 without loss.
Medium pace.
22 overs.
Fuller that time, but it's whipped one bounce
Warwickshire
through mid-wicket for 4.
Still have all these wickets in hand, but they'll do well to get to 300. Callaway comes on.
Yeah, well, we thought he was going to come into the attack sooner rather than later. Just seeing that replay there, and that hair's breadth away from that leg stump. How it missed, I'm not sure.
Yes, Podmore arms in the air at the time. 105 without loss. Warwickshire sitting pretty at the moment. As Ben Callaway will bowl from the Oakwood Road end. Kieran Carson helping him set the field. The 19-year-old from the Chepstow area. Tossing a couple of practice stunts on the offside, no run.